Hey, grace and peace. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Find the Intersection. My name is Paul Dezay. Today we're talking about Jeremiah chapter 18, verses 1 to 11. Jeremiah 18, 1 to 11. Today's passage is about the potter and the clay. And wow, what a powerful passage it is. If you haven't done so, read it through in a couple different translations. I read it through in the Common English Bible, the New Revised Standard, and the Message this morning. Try to get an understanding of what's going on here. What we have is kind of like a parable. Jeremiah is saying a parable from God. The word comes to Jeremiah from the Lord. Let's go down to the potter's house. Let's take a look at what's going on there. And what we see is a spoiled piece of clay and on working the wheel, and it's a spoiled piece of clay. And he said it was spoiled in the potter's hand, and he reworked it into another vessel, and it seemed good to him. So this is kind of the parable. And then there's an explanation that follows afterwards. So what this is about the story of willful disobedience, and that's Israel. Israel has disobeyed. The story of Jeremiah really is that story of God's people going their own way. And so this potter parable is to help them understand that they are the clay that's been spoiled because of their own disobedience. They have made the choice. Now, the potter can reshape this into something else. The potter has the power to build and to tear down, but the potter doesn't want to tear down and destroy. The potter loves the clay per se, as God loves Israel. And so what we see here is like a warning that God desires to make something beautiful out of the clay, but there has to be obedience for that to take place. So their response, if you would look down in chapter 18, verse 18, so the people responded by saying, hey, let's make plots against Jeremiah. So in other words, the people responded negatively against this warning. They didn't see themselves as disobedient. And the challenge is, as I read through this, is when we're disobedient, do we see ourselves as disobedient, or do we justify our behavior? And Israel justified. They took and blamed Jeremiah and not took responsibility. So what we have here is God has the power to destroy, but he resists, allowing people to cast their own fate. In other words, the story of Jeremiah is God allowing God's people to experience the consequences of their sin. And Babylon comes and wipes them out. Nebuchadnezzar comes and takes over Jerusalem. And so God loves his people, but he won't force himself on the people. He will let them get what they want. And then an interesting thing, you can study about the potter and the clay and all that, but an interesting thing I came across this morning that I think is very important for this particular passage is that for a potter, the clay has to be in the center of the wheel for it to become what it needs to be. If it's off center, it'll become a mess. And I think that's important for us to recognize as we take a look at Israel and we take a look at ourselves, is that we need to be centered around Christ. God is in the center of what we do, and everything revolves around him. We get disobedient when we allow ourselves to be in the center. So this is a warning to Israel, and I think it's a warning to us too, is to make sure that we allow God to be centered in our life and to examine ourselves to see if there's any disobedience in it, because God doesn't want to destroy us, but to recognize God has this mission and he desires for us to be a part of it. And so he'll let us face the consequences of our decisions and allow us to, go down the bad paths. He won't force his hand on us. He loves us too much to do that. So anyway, that's what I got out of it. What did you get out of the passage today? If you would share your thoughts in the comments, I'd greatly appreciate it. I love doing this, and I love to read your comments. So anyway, if you're live in Muncie, tonight at Southside at 7 o'clock, we'll be going through these passages in a Bible study. So if you're in the area, come by and join us. Hey, take care, everyone. Grace and peace.